Nintendo is in trouble? Wait, what? I thought the Nintendo Switch was doing really good. But you take a gander on the internet and you'll see a lot of the contrary. Nintendo's stock price just plummeted and no one knows why. Nintendo stock takes a kick in the mushrooms. Is the Nintendo Switch in trouble? Why are investors panicking about the Nintendo Switch? I find all of these articles very interesting and somewhat surprising, as some of these articles are written by industry-leading analysts and investors. The general undertone to most of these articles is that Nintendo is pretty much in hot water because of their stock price activity lately. The trading price dropped around 16% in June and about 22% overall since the beginning of the year. So what gives? What is going on here? Are people panicking for no reason? Is there some justification to these claims? And what is going on with this stock price drop? Well, that's what we're going to look at today. Many current industry valuations are worried for Nintendo, and for the unaware, a market valuation indicates whether the current trading price of a company is undervalued, valued correctly and at fair market value, or selling too high. You'll often hear people call a stock bullish or bearish. Bullish if the stock is undervalued and hence a good deal and likely to increase in the future, or bearish, the stock is overvalued and selling too high, likely to fall in the future. Many analysts are bearish towards Nintendo right now, warning potential investors to pull out and fear that the stock price may continue to decline, that Nintendo is overvalued. This is obviously bad news for Nintendo if it's true. So what are these people using to justify these claims? Most of these articles point to the recent downturn in Nintendo stock price, so let's start right there. This is Nintendo's public stock trading price in yen. Looking at the entire history of Nintendo, we can see that Nintendo's stock price was highest in 2007. This was the renaissance of the Wii, which is number 5 or number 6 on the most sold consoles chart of all time. It was Nintendo's most successful console, selling over 100 million units, only surpassed by the Nintendo DS at 150 million. These numbers are not 100% accurate, but it should paint a decent picture here to begin. Nintendo's good fortune didn't last long though, as the Wii U, released in 2012, tanked the company pretty hard for a long time. This was the console in the time that led to Nintendo's lowest stock price ever at under 10,000 yen. For a long time, gamers and investors wondered if Nintendo would ever get back on the right track, as the Wii U suffered from a lack of third-party support, from a lack of consistent first-party titles, its not for everyone tablet-like gamepad setup, and a weak launch lineup. After the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One came out the following year, it was pretty much lights out for Nintendo's Wii U until the Switch came out in 2007. The Switch saved Nintendo from plunging back into the dark pits of hell, as well as the worldwide craze of Pokemon Go in 2016. I think most people would agree that the Switch is a much better console than the Wii U. It has more games, it's more functional, and it appeals to just about everybody. So what's going on with this recent price dump that started in January and hit them hard in May as well? The Switch had a rough end of year on the books last winter, but slowly climbed up and was fairly consistent until March, although it wasn't that great at the beginning of the year either. The stock price since January has been erratic and in decline, which is different than simply being erratic. Dips in stock price are expected given other factors including seasonality, the economy, and how other stocks perform in relativity. The question is this happening to everybody else? What is not normal is a major stock falling when those factors remain constant or are flourishing for everybody else. One of the main reasons people are freaking out is because the gaming and economic climate surrounding this drop has been fairly calm, if not actually moving in the opposite direction. We can compare the economic growth of a stock index, for example, to Nintendo to see if a decline is actually happening on the aggregate. These stock indices, such as the S&P 500 Japan, the Nikkei, 225, etc., are good tools to use in comparison, and unfortunately for Nintendo, the economic climate of these indices are fairly consistent and growing, and that's a sign to be worried about. This is especially true when you consider Sony's stock price is at a 10-year all-time high and Microsoft at a total all-time high. During the months of Nintendo's recent stock plunge, those stocks were headed the other way, among other industry-leading companies like Ubisoft. So Nintendo stock isn't lining up at this brief moment in time anyway. It's a stock that should be growing during this period, as E3 was going on. We generally see a boom in investment interest in this industry during both E3 and the fall gaming season as new technologies and products premiere, sparking interest or disinterest, depending on the quantity and the quality. Many analysts partially attribute the decline in Nintendo stock price to their lackluster E3 showing. Nintendo has always struggled to stay competitive versus Sony and Microsoft in the first-party markets, at least in terms of sheer volume, and this year was their opportunity to announce a whole lot of cool games. Oddly enough, they went all in on Smash, which is a great product, I'm sure, but failed to announce much of anything else. No Metroid, no Mario Kart, no Animal Crossing, or much of anything else except for maybe Pokemon Let's Go. And keep in mind that the games that they did announce target core fans, and investors are worried that they didn't do enough to attract a mainstream customer that might not own a Nintendo Switch yet. In retorts, Nintendo's president fired back at the backlash, stating that they didn't want to announce all of the games this year and that we shouldn't worry about the expansion of Nintendo's new system just yet. This was to quell obvious worries that the Nintendo Switch won't hit its 20 million sales mark from April 2018 to March 2019, which is their stretch goal. Currently, they have sold nearly 2 million units the first quarter of that time frame, and if they keep that up, they'll fall short by over 12 million units, so something to think about. I've been a long time Nintendo advocate, except for the Nintendo Creators Program, which is a whole bunch of shit. They make incredible games, and the Nintendo Switch is a fantastic console that provided the award-winning Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Odyssey last year. They're finally changing their stance on indie games, and they appear to want to start focusing on providing games first, as well as supporting the third-party markets. Kind of. They might not have the biggest catalog, but what they do have is great, and the Nintendo Switch cornered a large niche unchallenged by other consoles, the family audience. But investors appear unsatisfied still, publishing article after article with some sort of panic-like agenda. For me personally, I think Nintendo is actually on the right track, regardless of all this information, and the Switch is an excellent system to own. Let's be honest here, sometimes investors, act quite irrational. How do I know that? Well, one only needs to look at how much money they poured into Nintendo when Pokemon Go came out. Even though many of them didn't actually know that Nintendo is only 1/3 of the Pokemon company, they flooded Nintendo's market nonetheless. So while the industry concern for Nintendo is definitely valid on the books right now, investors often really don't know what they're talking about 100%. What I do know though is Nintendo definitely needs to improve its third-party lineup, even though it's gotten better over time. They missed out on Monster Hunter World, Far Cry 5 this spring, in addition to various other titles last year. They consistently struggle with this idea of releasing Control to others who want to provide for them, and they need to relax on that agenda to expand their catalog. Thankfully, they're doing that with Fortnite, but they need to continue doing that. Investors often overreact, and analysts often get it wrong too. While the recent downturn in stock performance for Nintendo is nothing to shake a bottle at, even when the economic climate was stable and growing around them, there's still plenty of time this year for Nintendo to deliver on what makes Nintendo great. Great games and a system for everybody. So is Nintendo in trouble? I don't think so. Nintendo has a strong position in the market, unique games that you can't get anywhere else, and a console design unreplicated by its competition. Now, if they just fix their stupid stance on refusing to let people show gameplay and share their games with the world on YouTube and Twitch, maybe they'd see the growth they want even faster. So yes, I believe everyone is overreacting. Nintendo is in a great position in the market. Thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. I think it's important to analyze our industry from time to time, ask some hard questions, and analyze the information we have in hand to see if these allegations from people who write articles on the internet and analysts out there are actually true or not. I think there's some validity here, but I think they're missing the bigger picture here, which is the Nintendo Switch is still a very, very great system. It's got a lot of uniqueness to it, and it's got games you cannot get with Microsoft or Sony systems. And the Nintendo is more than simply the Nintendo Switch. They've got mobile platforms, and they've also got handheld revenue coming in from the 3DS. So it's not just the Switch we need to look at. We need to look at the big picture here, and these articles that I outlined in this video really didn't do that. And they also didn't mention the fact that Nintendo had its best year ever, bringing in a whopping $9.6 billion in revenue the last fiscal year, which is a 500% year-over-year increase. So if that doesn't say Nintendo is doing really, really great, I don't know what does. So they're doing really great. There was just a little bit of a stock scare, and maybe the lofty expectation of selling 20 million Switches this year is a little bit overboard, but in total, I think they're just fine. Thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to the Switch in the coming years to see how this system pans out in terms of a game development standpoint. Have a great day, guys, and if you enjoyed the video, go ahead and like it and subscribe here for more of our future content. Don't forget to leave me your comments down below as well. Take care, guys, and have a fantastic day. We'll see you guys in our next video. Peace, love, and happiness until then.